Welcome to and welcome back to the Big Burger Podcast. This is episode number 2. Today we're gonna discuss some conference realignment and some Big 12 win totals. So do you want to get us started, Eddie?
So breaking news, guys. Unless you've been living under a rock, if you've checked Twitter or any social media in the very recent most breaking news, Colorado's joining back the Big 12, leaving the Pac-12, and thus further emphasizing the Pac-12's death.
Absolutely.
Rest in peace, the Pac-12. We
Yeah.
will miss you.
It was a good run. It was a good run.
It was a good run.
But yeah, I think they're toast.
They're definitely
100%.
toast. They're definitely toast. I mean, unfortunately, they're getting picked off left and right. And although I do feel bad for them, they also did it to themselves. Their deal is not good.
Absolutely.
Their upcoming deal has been hard to get for them. They've also added no new teams. USC and UCLA already left over a year ago. They haven't added anybody new. Big 12, a couple years ago, Texas and OU announced that they're leaving. They went immediately as soon as they could and got all the wins from the Americans, all the good teams, Cincinnati, UCF, all these teams. So I don't I
They're on
don't
top of it.
I feel bad for the Pac-12, but I don't feel bad for the Pac-12. And I think this Big 12 commissioner is really, really putting in the work.
And just so everyone's aware, it is July 26th when this news broke, as we're recording right now.
Yeah.
So I don't like, I like the Pac 12, and I think college football is a regional sport and it makes sense. Like, I like the culture of like the West Coast, but you said it, they really did it to themselves. And I do think they have a couple of strong schools, obviously, like Oregon and Washington, and they have some good rivalries. But I just don't think they last. I think those bigger schools are going to leave, and then the smaller schools like Oregon State or like I don't know Cal or something, they're going to either join a Group of Five conference or just like probably just join a Group of Five conference. I don't think they'll go away or anything, but like I think they're going to get left behind for sure.
I totally agree. Um, that's definitely unfortunate. That's the only thing I feel bad about. I think I'm gonna miss that conference. I'm gonna miss the actual teams that played in it. I'm gonna miss some of the schools and the runs that they had. Stanford, a little while ago. I mean, by a little while, like 7, 8, 9 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, all these schools they had a nice run. As you said, the sport is a regional sport, but at the end of the day, money talks and money's talking really loud right
Yeah,
now.
I mean the Pac-12 will probably like they're going to have 10 teams. Oh wait, no, I guess no, they're going to have 9 or 8. Yeah, no, they're toast. They're
They're
done.
gonna
I mean, I
have
don't know
nine
what else.
teams,
Yeah, 9 or 8,
and
and I think yeah, no, they're done. They're totally done.
and Colorado's reasoning for leaving was the uncertainty of the Pac-12's future and the Big
They just
12's
they just sped that up
stability.
like crazy.
It's really it's funny that earlier, maybe like a year ago, 2 years ago, one could say that it's becoming the power two and all that, and the Big 12 is gonna
Right.
die and the Pac-12 is
I
gonna
was one of
die.
them.
But yeah, but the Big 12 is becoming a Frankenstein conference, for better or for worse. And I
Right.
personally love it. It's gonna bring a lot of chaos. That's gonna be so much fun. I love the current Big
Yeah.
12 right now with Texas OU and UCF, BYU, all these teams. It's gonna be awesome. But
And it's
it's
and it's mutually beneficial for Colorado to do that. It's not like so like when USC and UCLA, left, it like it killed, obviously it killed the Pac-12, but like it was all for money. Like like Colorado and Big 12, like I don't know, like they're helping each other. Like it just makes sense for Colorado to do that. Like I
they're
don't blame
helping each
Colorado
other
at all.
for sure.
Like
Right now with
it's
Deion
like
Sanders,
that's 100% the smart thing to do. Like I'm not blaming them at all.
yeah, with Deion Sanders there, they're they they're not like a national brand. They're not a powerhouse, but they went
But
from
they're like borderline national brand, like borderline, I
they
would
went
say.
from literally being the worst Power Five team, 111, like literally being the worst Power Five team, to being nationally relevant in one offseason.
Yeah,
And Dion could
yeah,
maybe leave in a couple
exactly.
years or not. Regardless, that
Or
train's
be fired.
rolling. He could be fired. They could go 0-12 this year, as we've said in our previous episode. But they're becoming relevant. They're adding transfers. They're in the news, and that's something that the Big 12 needed. That's like a school, a brand, a hype right now that they did need,
With a
and
lot
they
of
did,
fans, like a big following.
and a following. And yeah, yeah. And in a sport that's becoming less regional, they added to the regionality of their own brand.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
Colorado
I think
used to be
Colorado,
there.
right? Colorado fits as a Big 12 school more than a Pac-12 for sure,
Mhm.
for sure. So yeah, with that, you know, we went into this like episode not really knowing that like the Colorado thing is obviously breaking news. So like we didn't come into like today, like going to like speak about this much. We were gonna speak about, how, the Texas Oklahoma thing and the UCLA USC thing, and then the new schools the Big 12 are getting. So like, you know, according like having to do with those 8 teams specifically, who do you think, benefits from it the most? And on the flip side, who do you think, gets like the worst, like ends the worst off out of those 8?
Of the remaining
What do you
Pac-12
think?
teams,
No, 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 no. Of the teams that are, switching conferences. So let's see, USC, UCLA to the Big
Texas,
Ten, right?
OU,
Texas, Oklahoma to the SEC,
sure.
and then the 4 new schools to the Big 12. So BYU, Houston, UCF,
Oh,
and
okay. I
Cincinnati.
I was a little confused because technically those schools have officially already moved this year, and
Right,
the other ones
right.
are okay.
You know
So
what I
I
mean?
I think the team that is setting themselves up for their best future. I mean, I think it has to be the answer objectively has to be either Texas or USC, because they're the two best teams right now of the ones that we mentioned. I think. I
Okay.
personally am gonna go with Texas. I think Texas is like a big brand. USC is too, but I think Texas is a bigger brand. I think um they could recruit really well with Sark. I mean, they are recruiting really well. They're getting back into their prominence in the Big 12. No Texas fans, I'm not saying they're back yet. I'm not saying they're back yet, but they're returning to prominence. And I think it's going to be a seamless transition to the SEC for them. So I think they will fare off the best.
Okay. I'm gonna go with a little bit of a different route. I'm not gonna go Texas or USC or like any of the schools that are really good right now.
Oh,
I'm gonna go with a smaller school that's joining the Big 12. Um, this like I don't really want to say this, but
oh
I
man, he's
think
gonna
that
do it. He's
UCF, I
oh
think UCF is in the best position long term to benefit the most from like joining a new conference.
yeah,
You
I
know,
can see that.
they've been screaming ever since their fake national title. Oh, we won a natty, and everybody's like, no, like you have to be in a power conference.
Yeah,
Now they're finally in one.
yeah.
So they're hyped. Gus Malzahn is actually like a good coach. They recruit well for being a group of 5 school. They recruit pretty well, and they're only going to get better because they're in obviously a talent-rich state in Florida.
Hmm.
So I think long term, maybe not like 2, 3 years, but maybe 4 or 5 and beyond, they will recruit well enough to definitely, battle for Big 12 championships. And if they get really, really good, I can see them making a playoff down the road, but I can see them being really successful.
With the
And I'm not
12
like a
team,
UCF fan at all. I just like that's just what I think.
we're not UCF fans. We don't hate
Yeah.
UCF either. We're
Yeah.
not on that boat. That's another boat over there. That's not us.
And they're also like a giant public university. They have like 75,000 students or something. Like they're well equipped to like financially like support themselves.
They're big, as Richie said. They're in a talent-rich state. Their school and program seem to be extremely serious, especially compared to some other schools around the country.
Yeah,
They're very
for sure.
serious on getting better. The rise that they've had. in just a few short decades is pretty insane.
It's crazy. Yeah.
And I definitely agree with you. Who will benefit the most of joining a new conference? It's probably I would agree with you there. It's probably UCF. That's an interesting one, and I'm excited to see what UCF does in the future because I think well UCF also plays UF soon and Miami soon, and who knows with the
Yeah.
bowl
True.
game like
True.
we'll get to see a little bit more head-to-head matchups. So I think it's gonna be
And
really
like just
interesting.
bigger matchups with them, and we'll see how
Yeah,
they fare.
yeah, it's not like the Gasparilla Bowl from a few years ago.
Right. Not like that goofy bowl that they like celebrated so hard for, even though like UF just didn't even care.
Yeah, we beat UF. Yippee!
That's funny, but it's okay. They'll learn. Like they'll probably get smacked around for a couple of years in the Big 12, and then like they may get good. We'll see. Um, who do you think will be like the worst off out of like all these new schools joining new conferences?
I think I'm gonna go with Houston.
Okay.
I think they'll benefit from joining the Big 12. I
Hmm.
think also the regionality helps them. I think they can also recruit for like the same thing they were saying about UCF. They can recruit
Yeah.
in their talent-rich state as well. The problem is that they're competing with a ton of schools in that state.
Yeah.
And without the national brand, without that backing, it's gonna be tough for them.
Hmm.
This is not gonna make much sense literally, but I think you're gonna understand what I mean. I think they're the most group of 5e school of the ones that joined the Big 12. They
Yeah,
I
I
mean
agree. I
they've
agree
had a
with that.
couple good years recently. They were ranked a couple weeks like here and there, but from my time of being a fan, I can't speak about, a long time ago, but from my time, they're okay. Like they're well
Yeah, they're
enough
just a solid group of five school. Like
they're
they're
just a
nothing.
solid group of 5 school, but they're not like a UCF or Cincinnati, which are like really, really good. Like they should have been in a Power Five.
Right.
They proved it. I
Yeah, no,
think
they
they,
play like it.
I think they kind of got a like Houston. I think they got a kind of got a bid because of their location and because they needed to round it out. I think. Not saying that they don't deserve it. I'm just saying I think it's going to be tougher for them as opposed to these other schools.
Fair.
What about yourself?
I'm gonna go ahead and say something a little crazy. I'm gonna pick Oklahoma joining the SEC.
I can see that too.
Um, Oklahoma definitely recruits well. Obviously, they recruit like the top 10 almost every year, but they were the freaking kings of the Big 12, and I don't know how like that will affect them joining like a, a conference that their schedule will be
Yeah.
so much harder to win that conference, and so much harder to get out of that conference to make the playoff.
Mm.
I feel like I don't know if Venables is the truth. I'm not like super bought in on him. I don't like I just don't know. I don't know if he's gonna be good or bad. Like I don't know.
Really
But
quick
but
interruption. How you
yeah,
said about Dan Lanning of Oregon last episode, how it's
yeah,
a big year for him. That's how I see
yeah.
Venables this year.
Yeah,
Really
I
big
agree.
year.
But I think Venables is in a worse spot because at least Dan Lanning, kind of maintained it. He won 9 games, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, 9-3. Oklahoma went 6-7 or 6-6 and then lost their bowl game. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
FSU.
Yeah.
So like they plummeted. Like I know they lost a ton of transfers and all that, but like they plummeted from Lincoln Riley's like freaking dominance.
They did.
So I don't know.
To
I think
to
Venables
to
has a
be
ton of
fair,
pressure on him.
Lincoln Riley did take a lot of those student
Yeah, he
athletes
did.
with
He did.
him,
He took a ton of good dudes. Yeah.
but yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's
All right.
they're in a vulnerable spot to say to
Definitely,
be
they need
fair.
to do well here to get something rolling to going into the SEC. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Um.
Speaking about the Big 12.
So yeah, let's get on into the Big 12. It's a crazy conference. Big 12 has 14 teams this year.
Woo!
A little crazy.
My favorite conference this year by far is the Big 12. I've been hyping this up. When I found out that these 4 schools were coming in and there's going to be a year or two, now we know it's going to be 1 year that Texas and OU is going to be in the Big 12. I think this is going to be, I think this could spell a lot of chaos for this conference in a good way, in a way that fans could cherish. There's going to be a lot of
Yeah,
fun matchups, and we'll get into it now.
a bunch of crazy weird matchups.
More
All
chances
right,
for
so
Texas to burger.
yes, absolutely. All right. Speaking of Texas, they do have the highest win total.
Mm.
They have the highest win total tied with Oklahoma at 9.5, but I guess we can do Texas first. They are the favorites to win the conference. Their over is at -140 and their under is at +120. 9.5. What do you think?
9.5. I think it's a fair number. They won 8 games last year, right? And then
Yeah,
they
they
lost their
went
bowl
eight and
game.
four and then lost the bowl game to Washington. Yeah.
And that's that, they had a very similar schedule last season as to this season. Um,
Mhm.
they're out of conference, 2 very easy games. And then of course the elephant in the room, literally, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Of course, last season, if they had won that game, they would have, gotten the over for this season. They would have hit, or not, they wouldn't have hit the over, but they would have gotten the ninth win. I think they would have won that game if Quinn Ewers didn't go down. I think Bryce Young completely went turbo mode and he like willed that Alabama team to win that game. I'm not saying that was a fluke. I'm just saying that I think Texas had that game and then they kind of blew it. Unfortunately for them, I mean, Quinn Ewers went down, but I think, of course, they win this Alabama game. That's a huge game to win, and the momentum is there. But I'm gonna make a prediction. I think they do win that game. I think Quinn Ewers is a Heisman candidate. I think he's the real deal. I think that's a really good team, and Alabama does not have Bryce Young. They, of course, Alabama is one of the most talented teams, if not the most talented team. But I think this is Texas's time to beat Alabama.
Yeah.
So
Just a comment.
I'm gonna take the over. There's a few
Okay.
losable games here. Of course, the Alabama one is probably the biggest, most losable game. But I'm taking them
Mhm.
to win. I'm taking the over. I could see
Nice.
this being a potential playoff team, not a lock, just a potential one.
Damn, you're hyping them up.
Hyping them up.
So I am not as confident as you are in Texas. Um, I think Alabama is like getting a lot of, I don't know about disrespect, but a lot of like people don't think they're gonna be that good. People think they're gonna lose 2 or 3 games, and like think Alabama's gonna kind of take care of business at home. I kind of think they're gonna maybe not blow out Texas, but win by a couple of touchdowns, just like they do
Mhm.
against like any normal team.
Yeah.
And Texas obviously has a terrible reputation of not living up to expectations. So I could see them still, even in Sark's third year, losing to some, burger team. Like, I don't know. Like they could lose at TCU. They could lose like a goofy game, back-to-back road game at Iowa State late in the season. They have to play at Baylor, and those teams are all, when Texas comes to their town, like that's their Super Bowl. So
Yeah.
they're gonna be hyped up. Um,
And there's also the factor to take in that since this is the last season in the Big 12
oh
refs
yeah,
may or may not be
yeah.
so kind to them.
I will 100% expect bias against Texas and Oklahoma. They're gonna do anything in their power to not allow them to win the conference
Hmm.
as subtly as they possibly can. They're gonna like definitely like at least root for other teams to win.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have them slightly under. I have them slightly under, and I'm sorry to Texas fans. I know you have a lot of hype, but you literally went 8-4 last year. And the total's all the way up to 9.5.
So
Um,
so would you
Out
give
of the
them
new
you
teams,
would give them the 9 though?
I would give them up to 9. Yeah, I can see them losing at Alabama, losing one of these 4 road games that they play in the Big 12 for sure, and
I
then
think
some random goofy loss somewhere else that they always do every single year. And don't
I
blame
think
me because you got to prove yourselves. I'm sorry, that's happened like every year for like the past like 10 years. You got to
yeah,
prove yourselves that you're not gonna have some goofy loss,
I think
just like UM, to be honest.
Yeah. I think the one that you mentioned earlier, the Iowa State one, I think that one is a total trap game right there.
Super trap game, yeah, for
Very
sure.
they play Kansas State, the current reigning Big 12 champions. They
Yeah,
play TC at TCU. You know, TCU is not going to be the playoff team, the good team that they were last year, but they're not
yeah,
going to be a pushover either. And then the following
definitely.
week at Iowa State, which, Big 12 fans say it's like not the easiest to win there. And
Mm,
coming off two straight tough games and then back to back away games late in the season, November, the pressure might be getting to them. It's a trap game.
yeah,
I'm not saying they're going to lose that game. I'm just saying it's a trap game.
yeah. Okay, so we're actually split decision on that, which is kind of rare,
Yeah,
but
I'll take the
let's
over. I would say I'm going to go 10 or 11
yeah, no,
wins.
I wouldn't be surprised if they go 10-2. Obviously, you're better,
Hmm.
but yeah, I think I like the under. All right, next team, Oklahoma, who they are expecting to have a major, major jump this year. They're also at 9.5.
Yeah.
They're slightly favored. They're slightly leaning to go under at -120, but pretty even.
Looking at the schedule, there's a few games here that are losable. From what I'm seeing, though,
Their schedule is so much easier than
their
Texas.
schedule is easier, whereas Texas's most difficult game is at Alabama. Oklahoma's most difficult game is Texas.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think. I mean, looking at it
yeah.
from a
I
preseason
agree.
standpoint, they should clear that non-con,
Yeah,
and
the
they should
non-con is
win.
goofy.
And then they should win. Their home schedule is nice. Their away schedule is not that bad. Of course, they play Texas, neutral site.
At BYU, man, that's tricky. That's
That,
very tricky.
that is tricky.
It's a
I,
weird, weird,
I'm
weird
I'm
game.
also gonna go over here.
Damn, you are so like optimistic on these teams. I'm gonna, I'm also
Texas.
gonna stick to under.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick to under only because improving from
What
6 wins to 10 wins is so hard. They are recruiting well, but I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know enough about Venables. I don't trust him enough to get all the way to 10. I can easily see them getting to 9, but I can also see them getting like being like 8-4, just being like,
Yeah,
a kind of good team. And like
they
Oklahoma, like they're not used to that, obviously, but like, Lincoln Riley kind of took something out of the program, like physically and like mentally, I think. So I'm gonna lean under, but 9-3 isn't even a bad season for Oklahoma.
mhm.
I think they should be content with that, but
I
that's where I'm at.
agree. I agree with the points you made. I will also say, to be fair to the Oklahoma program and fan base, they did have like some absurd amount of number of games last season that were one score games at the end.
Yeah,
Like they
true.
lost by like
Very true.
3 or 1 or 7 or something like that. So, you
True.
know, that's a double-edged sword in and of itself. Maybe you win those games, but then again, maybe you lose those games again. So
Right. Yeah. I expect them to win some of those close games, but then, they still might lose them. And, I think they have a way bigger problem in dealing with Texas, where they literally got smoked last year 49-0.
oh my
Um,
goodness.
they better like show up and not embarrass
Yeah,
themselves.
that was not a good look for Venables year one, but
Not at all. Not at all.
we'll see how he does year two. So another
Slightly under. I'm not like super under, but slightly under.
another difference in these predictions. Very different so far compared to our
Very
Pac-12
different.
win total
All right.
projections.
Next school, we got Kansas State. The reigning Big 12 champions have the third highest win total at 8.5. And also, the thing with this conference is that like everybody kind of has the same amount of like win totals, according to DraftKings. Like everybody's just muddled in the middle.
You
Everybody's
said
muddled between like 5 wins and 8 wins.
you said 9.5,
No, no, 8.5 for
eight
Kansas
and a half.
State.
Sorry. Oh, okay.
Um,
There's a game on here that I actually didn't know about until about a week or two ago or recently.
mhm.
That at Missouri game is an interesting one. They used to be, just because Big 12 SEC, and also Missouri used to be part of this conference. That's an interesting game. I'm pleasantly surprised with that one. It's going to be a good game, I
That
think.
one should be good. That one should be good. I believe they did play that game last year also.
What was the outcome?
So Kansas State blew them out. It was 40-12. It wasn't even close, but it was in Manhattan, Kansas.
Mm, this time in
This one will
Missouri.
be on the road. Interesting, interesting.
Eight
So
and
they
a
catch
half.
UCF at home. That's easy. They catch Houston. So those are the two new teams that they catch from the new teams joining the Big 12. Those are two auto wins.
Sure.
Missouri game is tough.
I
Eight and
think
a half.
the three toughest games, actually, I guess three, but one could argue four. At Missouri, at Texas Tech, at
Mhm.
Texas, and then depending on how they are, at Oklahoma State.
It's a really interesting like road schedule. Like I'm not saying like that they're underdogs in every single one, but like I think all of those games will be pretty even, except for maybe the Texas one.
Their
Texas
hardest
maybe favored
games,
by a little.
their hardest games are for sure the away ones. Like
Yeah, yeah,
except Kansas.
which kind of works against them.
Yeah. I'm gonna
Uh,
go, I think
I'm gonna go slightly under.
I'm
I'm
gonna
feeling under. I'm
I
feeling like
agree.
8-4. I think 8-4 is better than 9-3. I think,
Hmm.
and I know they did really well last year. Um, they went 9-3 in the regular season, but I don't know. I think there are more improved teams on their schedule this year,
I agree.
and like just too many weird road games.
They dodge Oklahoma,
Yes.
which is good for them, but they play the other couple good, like really good teams,
Yeah.
TCU and Texas. So
Right. Right.
I
Okay.
agree there. Under.
Nice. Nice. So the next team, there's a few at 7.5. Actually, no, just two. Just two at 7.5. It's Texas Tech and TCU. So a couple of Texas schools. What do you want to hit first?
Let's take on the Big 12's most recent college football playoff
Let's go.
champion or
TCU. TCU has such an
representative.
awesome logo, awesome mascot, awesome colors. TCU is pretty awesome.
They
Um,
were they were the most, I mean, of course, but they were the most fun team to watch last year.
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. And that Michigan game was absurd. They definitely shouldn't have won that game,
Crazy.
but it was fun. And then you could tell they didn't really belong in the championship game,
Yeah.
but they were one weird game away from winning a national championship. So that is extremely impressive.
Yep.
So with that being
Ooh,
said, their over under win total is 7.5. That's like kind of disrespectful. And
it
I know
is.
why it is. I know why their returning production is like terrible.
Yeah,
Uh,
all their, every time
everybody
you make the
left.
playoffs,
Yeah,
they just the NFL just takes all your guys pretty
yeah,
much.
definitely.
And that happened with Cincinnati as well. That happens with um of course it happens with like the Alabamas and Georgias and Clemsons.
The
But
returning production is only 52%, so kind of low.
but those teams, they have much more loaded rosters. TCU's
Right,
they
right,
just plucked off all of, the most talented people.
right.
Looking at the schedule, hey look, Colorado.
That's a free win.
Free win.
I have no doubt in my mind that they will beat Colorado in week 1.
Yeah. I think they sweep their non-con.
Mhm. Fair.
They do have they do at Texas Tech, at that's an interesting one. At Kansas State, followed by a bye week, and then at Texas Tech.
That's great. That's great how the schedule falls like that.
That's interesting. I haven't seen too many of that.
They could lose both of those games though. Um, I'm not super high on Texas Tech. I think TCU is a better team.
Hmm.
Um,
Better coach,
but
better.
they could lose obviously that game.
Yeah, and then they play both Texas and then at Oklahoma to finish it off.
That is tough. That is tough. Baylor just like I don't know what to think of Baylor. Baylor like randomly appears on all these schedules and like I don't know what to think of them.
I don't know what to think of them either.
So
I
random.
the Big 12 last as we said in our previous episode, the Pac-12, a team with pretty much no middle class. The Big 12 is all
It's
middle
all middle
class.
class.
It's all middle class.
All freaking middle
So,
class.
you
And
know,
I remember that game last year, Baylor TCU. That was like the crazy last
that's the
field
field
goal.
goal, right? When they
Yeah.
had like 9 seconds left
With
and
no timeouts, and they just ran the field goal team on, and there was like no penalties, nothing. It was like a perfect pick with like 2 seconds left. It was crazy.
insane.
That's ice cold, man. Ice
Ice
friggin' cold.
cold. I mean, how could you not like that TCU team, man? That was awesome.
What a team.
I'm gonna go here 8.5,
No, no, 7.5. Seven and a
seven
half.
and a half. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
gonna go the over.
I'm gonna go over too. I really like the over. I like
Seven and a half,
8.5. It's
dude.
7.5. And the over isn't even that crazy. It's at minus 130. That's like pretty good.
I think
Yeah, I'm gonna hit the over.
to lose 4 games, let's go with four. Let's say, in
They can
quotation
lose four
marks.
games and still hit the over. That's
What are the
crazy.
what? Let's say there's 4 automatic losses. In air quotes.
I'll try. Yeah,
What
I'll
are
try to
those
find
four?
four. I'll try at Kansas State, Texas
I
at home. I guess Texas gets revenge or something.
sure.
At Oklahoma, that's 3.
I agree.
And then Texas Tech is probably a coin flip. Maybe Iowa State is kind of coin flippy also. So
Yeah, and they
that's
should win one of those 2 games.
right. That would be like your 4, like worst case scenario, 5 losses. But 4 seems a lot more likely. And
Yeah,
that still hits over.
and that's a coach that literally just went to the college football playoff. They're
Yeah.
smart. They know what they're doing. Yeah, I agree. Even though the talent gone, and you know what? An interesting point that we didn't say that we didn't mention.
Mhm.
What was his name again? Max Duggan.
Yeah. Duggins, or yeah, the quarterback,
He
whatever, Duggan or Duggins.
he was a Heisman candidate, and now
Yeah.
he left. He went to the NFL, I think.
Mhm.
He wasn't the starter last year to start the season.
Right.
The
Right.
starter got injured, I'm pretty sure, and then he had to go in for him.
Yeah.
This
That's
guy's
that is
coming
true.
back. I don't know his name. I forgot his name. I mean, maybe you could look it up, but this guy's coming back. So it's not like it's like a whole brand new system and brand new quarterback and who knows what it's gonna be. No, this guy was good enough to be good, and
Mhm.
with
His name is Chandler Morris.
Sonny Dykes' second year, to
Right.
put it at 7.5 is low key disrespectful.
Yeah, I agree. I
He
agree. I like the over.
man, TCU.
ECU.
TCU doesn't care about the haters. They don't care about Vegas. They do not care. They'll do whatever they
That's
want.
awesome. That's so awesome. They made the playoff before USC. That's pretty crazy.
That's awesome.
Um, Not to poke at USC, just like I don't know. I just thought of that right now. But let's see. The other team that's at 7.5, Texas Tech. Kind of a weird team.
So last episode we did speak about this very interesting non-con game, Oregon at Texas Tech. I did say last episode that I think Oregon wins that game. I just think they're a more talented team. I
Hmm.
think Dan Lanning is a good coach. I think you're right. He's going to prove himself, or not, more so this year.
Hmm.
But I think he is a good coach from what we know so far.
Yeah. I
Assuming
think
that
yeah.
that's
I
the
think they'll be underdogs
loss.
in that game, but like it'll be close, I think, for sure.
Do they dodge, from what I'm looking at here, they dodge Oklahoma.
Hmm.
Oh, but they play both.
At
They play
Texas.
the other three, highest teams, Texas, TCU, and Kansas State.
2 of those are at home though.
Two of those are at home.
They have a good home schedule, a really, really good home schedule. They go undefeated at home if they beat Oregon, or that's a big ask. But like past Oregon, like their Big 12 home schedule is like if they get TCU at home, they could win that game. Like I don't
They
know.
should they should win the other. I mean, of course, they should win the other non-con games at Wyoming and then Tarleton State.
I've never heard of that. That's crazy.
Never heard of them either. But I think also
Texas.
the bye week, it's a little late, would you say?
It's a little late, but I prefer a late bye week than a early bye week for sure.
Sure. And then
Maybe like maybe the middle of the season is like the best, but
but they get to reset, the they have their bye week and then they have four more games after that. Two of their
mhm.
toughest games are in those four games.
Yes,
So it's nice to have a little reset. And one of them is the week after the bye week, TCU. So looking
yeah,
at it, I mean, this is an interesting one. What would you go first?
sure. I'm gonna go slightly under, and I'll tell you why. The recruiting is like whatever. It's okay. It's kind of normal for a Big 12 school. The returning production is not amazing, but it's okay. Very average. And I think they're just like about a 7-5 team. They went 7-5 last year. Nothing else really like leads me to believe that they'll be like confidently say that they will be that much better to win 8 games and go 8-4. I think there's a huge difference between a team winning 7 and 8 games in a regular season, and
Sure.
I just don't think they're there yet. Um,
I see.
they play at BYU.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go slightly under. I don't feel great, but slightly under.
This team reminds me a lot of Oregon State.
Yeah, yeah, I
They,
agree.
they're like the Oregon State of the Big 12. And the reason I say that is because Oregon State is getting hype in the Pac-12 this year because of, they have a decent returning production. They have a few transfers here and there. But mostly because they ended the season really well, and especially because of their bowl game. If you look at it like that, from the reasons I just mentioned, that's very similar to this Texas Tech team. They're getting some hype, and I'm not saying this is a bad team, but they're getting some hype that maybe is a little bit undeserving. And it's mostly from the same reasons I just mentioned for the Oregon State team. Their last two games, they won their last four games of last season. So they're on a four-game winning streak. And their last two games were the last game of the regular season, Oklahoma win in overtime, and versus Ole Miss, a double-digit win. So I think they're getting a little bit too much hype. You said the win total was what again?
7.5.
I think eight is very possible. I think seven is very possible. I'm gonna lock it in for myself with the under though. A slight under, but an under nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. Slightly under. I think they could go 8-4, but 7-5, I believe, is more likely. Um, they have a few tough road games. BYU, Baylor, and Texas, especially. And then that Oregon game that they could win. There's a bunch of games that they could win, but I don't know. Too many wild cards for me, and I don't think they're talented enough to get over 7.5. So
Yeah.
with that, next team on the list is there's a tie between UCF and Oklahoma State. They're both at 6.5. Oh wait, my bad, my bad.
Ooh,
I skipped one team. Baylor, they're at an even 7.
even seven for
That's like a perfect number for them because like I seriously don't know what to think of them at all, and like 7 just sounds like the most like average normal like number that I would be able to come up with.
yeah. Let's go with Baylor.
They have at Cincinnati, dude. Their schedule is so whack. They have at UCF, so they have to go all the way to Orlando. They have to go all the way to Cincinnati, and then they have back to back at the end of the year, Kansas State and TCU.
Oh,
What?
against the two teams that played for the Big 12 championship
That
last
is
year.
such an awful schedule.
And then not to mention a game that we talked about last
Yeah,
episode,
no.
Utah. This
Utah at
one's
home.
this one's at home, so that's pretty good for them. And Utah, although they have a little bit of extended time between their first game and their second game, as they play Utah plays the Florida Gators, I think on a Thursday.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So they
true.
do have a little bit more extended time. Utah, going to Baylor. Utah's a pretty good team. That's going to be a very interesting game. That one, I think we said in the last episode, I think I said that it could go either way. I mean, I remember saying it was
Yeah,
not easy.
yeah,
I think Utah has the upper hand, though. I think Baylor will be the underdog. But that's not an easy game for either team. For either team, I
yeah,
think.
yeah. Last year they went 6-6 and they lost their bowl game to Air Force. I don't know what the story with that is. I didn't watch
Wow.
that game, but they
Yeah, me
lost to Air
neither.
Force in their bowl game, so that's a little weird. Yeah, no, I think they have a bunch of toss-up games,
Hmm.
and with like basically every single game, maybe except Houston is a toss-up, and then they have a few tough road games that I don't think they're gonna win. West Virginia they'll probably win, but um,
West
I don't
Virginia,
know.
they'll
There's
win.
there's too many toss-ups for me. I like the 7. I like the push. I don't know. What do you think?
You're telling me 6-6 and then they lost to Air Force?
Yes.
This is
Oh
not
gosh.
a particularly good team. I think I don't think they're a terrible team. They're not West Virginia, but I think this is not an easy schedule. They're out of conference. It's not really easy, of course, because of Utah. I don't think LIU or Texas State will surprise and beat Baylor.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go under, and I'll feel confident about it.
Oh,
Not super
okay.
confident, but confident enough that I'll do it, and I'll do it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna ride with you there. I'm gonna go under, and like with a random team that I don't really know much about, I have to go off of numbers. And 6-6 last year is not good. Their recruiting is okay. Their returning production is not the best. It's only 56%.
Hmm.
And then their road schedule is just it's tough. It's
It's
tough.
tough. Like
So yeah,
to
I'm
to
gonna
play
I'm gonna go
at
under.
Kansas State and then following up the very next week with
That's
at
brutal.
TCU. Like what?
That's brutal.
Like that could be two like easy losses right there. Easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
There probably will be two easy losses.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Next one on the list. So now we're going into the teams with totals at 6.5. So UCF and Oklahoma State are those two teams.
Mm.
What do you who do you want to go to first?
Let's go with our brethren, UCF,
The in-state
in-state
brother.
brethren.
Um,
It's crazy. You could be in Miami, ACC country, drive up north a couple hours, you're in Big 12 country. Drive up north a couple more hours, you're in SEC country, and then drive up north a couple more hours, and you're in ACC country again in the
what
same
a
state.
beautiful, diverse state.
What a beautiful, diverse state.
I think for the most part, at least in Florida, UCF does have like a lot of alumni and a lot of students and whatever. So
Hmm.
like I see like random UCF stuff all the time, but I think Miami is pretty solid. Miami, there's some FSU and UF obviously, and some UCF,
Hmm.
but I think Miami's pretty solid. Miami. I think you know Florida from Miami to like the Orlando area ish. I think that's pretty split between UF and FSU. Like that's pretty like I think that's like a mostly FSU and UF fans, probably more UF fans.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would give the slight lean to UF. Yeah.
And then the Tampa area probably also leaning UF.
Hmm.
Orlando, all right, fine. I'll give UCF that. They have Orlando.
But that's
But
also like a mixed, diverse place as well. But yeah,
yeah,
UCF
yeah.
probably with the edge.
And then if you go up to like Jacksonville, I would say that's also split UF FSU, but slightly more FSU. And then the rest of the state, obviously, up
Yeah.
there. Um,
So
so yeah.
this is a very diverse state, a very beautiful state. But
um,
as
so
for
let's see. This is
UCF,
the highest. This is the of the newcomers. This is the team with the highest win total, 6.5.
well, Gus Malzahn is probably saying, the win total should be like 9.5. Why
Of
are you
course.
disrespecting UCF? I mean, of
Absolutely.
course, they're part of the
Playoff
big,
contenders.
they're part of the big four. They won they won the Natty just a couple years ago.
Of course. Of course.
Um, Looking at the schedule, I mean,
At Boise State, what are you doing? Why are you going all the way to Idaho? What? Why would you do
That's
that?
losable,
That's so losable. I'm not saying Boise State is good, but dude, come on. Don't
dude.
schedule at Boise State ever again.
Dude, that's losable.
At Kansas
There's
State,
not
at
not necess-
Oklahoma, at
not
Cincinnati. Oh my
yeah,
God.
those games that you just mentioned, they're very interesting. I think those are going to be really fun games. Like
Their road games are crazy.
if I'm
And
a
they're
UCF
tough.
fan, watching the Oklahoma Sooners come to your stadium, that's fun.
No. They have to go to
Oh,
Oklahoma. They have to go
sorry,
to
I
Oklahoma.
read that wrong. Oh, never mind. Never mind.
Dude, they
Yeah,
have so they have, that's what I'm saying, dude. Their road schedule is crazy. Is crazy.
yeah. Oh
Even at
God.
Kansas. Even at Kansas is tough.
That is losable
Dude,
with Jalen Daniels
they could
for
go 0 and
Kansas.
6 in their road games. They can go 0 and 6. They could. I'm not saying they will, but they could.
With really bad luck, not even bad luck, just slightly poor play, Boise State could be a loss. Probably
Yeah.
not, but could be. Kansas could be a loss. That's more coin flippy than UCF fans want to hear.
Yes. Yes. Dude, you got to go to Kansas. I mean, like that's not a short trip. That's the problem with UCF though. They're in a bad location.
They're in a bad
Obviously,
location.
with
They
the
have
rest
to
of the Big
go.
12.
They have to go to Kansas State, then play Baylor at home, and then go to Kansas.
They have to go to Kansas, the state of Kansas, twice
Twice.
in like 2 weeks.
What that guys? That is a burger right there. That's a
That is
burger.
actually a burger. Baylor's the burger in the middle.
Baylor's the burger in between the burgers.
At Oklahoma is
You
tough.
said
At
six and a
Cincinnati.
half.
Yeah, I'm gonna go under, and I'm
Let's
pretty
lock it in the
confident.
under.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
we're in
actually
the.
really confident.
We're sorry, UCF fans. We're sorry to our in-state brethren, but you got a tough schedule.
Their home games are okay, but their road games are crazy. And like, there is a huge difference between playing, two or three, not even like one or two power teams a year versus now you're gonna play nine.
Yeah,
So that's like it's a different monster. And I know UCF doesn't want to hear that. And like, oh, we've been better than the big three the past few years. Okay,
well,
bro.
this is
Let's
their
see how
time
you
to
do in the
prove it.
Big 12. Yeah, like
Yeah,
prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I don't
prove
think you're
us
gonna win
wrong.
7 games.
Well, Texas and OU are still in there. Prove us
Right.
wrong. I will say though, if they do win, like I'm not gonna put 9 wins even in the realm of possibility. But if they win 8, that's really good.
If they win 8, they're in position to like take control of the conference for like the
Y-
long term, which is why I think that they're like the best position to like out of the newcomers to like do well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
Gonna be
but for this
interesting.
season, I'm gonna go under.
Gonna go under. That's an interesting one, and we'll see how they do.
That the under actually has value too. It's at plus 150. So like there's amazing value if you want that.
Dude,
I'm
free
locking that up.
free money, free.
The other team that's at 6.5 is Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State. This team, we did mention one game in our previous episode, which is of course the non-con versus Arizona State at Arizona
Mhm.
State, Pac-12.
Yeah.
We did say on that episode, and I'll still agree with that, my opinion has not changed, that either team, like that's a little coin flippy.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State should maybe win that, but it is coin flippy. It is actually very coin flippy.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Anything else jump at you?
They went 7-5 last year. So they think that they're gonna do slightly worse. Obviously, it's 6.5, but like they think they're not gonna do as well.
Mm-hmm.
At Arizona State, they could lose, but I think they'll win that game.
Yeah, they should clear and sweep that
The
non-con.
9-1, yeah. That'll
Yeah,
make me 3-0. Let's just give them 3-0. And then
the Iowa State game at Iowa State coin flip.
they have a really, really favorable road schedule. Really favorable.
At West Virginia, at Houston, at UCF, at
Yeah.
Iowa State.
Iowa State's tough, but I think the other three are definitely winnable, and they should be favored.
They should be favored. Yeah.
Their recruiting is pretty good. Their returning production, let's see. I think it's okay. It's at
What is it?
58%, which is not great, but like their recruiting is solid. Um,
And they've had
I kind of like the over. I like them going 7-5 again. 7-5 gets me the over. I'll take that all day.
they play Bedlam okay. They play Bedlam in
The
their
first
home
week of
stadium.
November. Yeah, and it's at home.
Really quick side note, speaking about conference realignment and now Big 12, rest in peace Bedlam for a little while at least.
Yeah, that's awful.
This
I
is
don't know how they could take that away.
this is one of the most, I see on Twitter, when I talk about this or when I see it on Twitter, all these Oklahoma fans, they're like, "Oh, this was the most lopsided rivalry, in the whole country. We've won like
Yeah, maybe.
85% or 90%. Who cares? Who cares? People liked watching it sometimes,
Yeah, definitely.
especially recently. Oklahoma State has won a couple times in the last like
And I would say
couple
Mike
years.
Gundy is like one of the most likable coaches in the country.
Yeah, like this was cool. Like and plus you're supposed to play your big
Your
brother
in-state
or little
rival,
brother.
right?
Yeah, you're supposed to play them. Georgia plays Georgia Tech. Florida plays
Yeah,
Florida State. Kentucky plays Louisville. Like all these schools play their in-state rivalry. That's what
yeah,
you do. They should schedule this as soon as they can. They should
absolutely.
cancel games to put this back. It's on both of them. Anyone saying it's only Oklahoma or whatever, it's on both, of
It's on both.
course.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Bring it back. I liked seeing Oklahoma State win this game.
And I like their colors and their mascot. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it was cool. It was fun last year. This also to keep on going with this side note. This is gonna be the last year of college football as you and I have grown up on it. The last like
yeah,
5 to 10 years. It was a little different when we were like little kids, but what we grew up on, which I would say
yeah.
is
The
the
last
last.
15 years or so. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this is the
Or like
last year,
10. Yeah, 10 years.
last year like this. So
Last year of an era for
let's
sure.
en- let's enjoy it. It's gonna be a great season, guys. Stick around with the Big Burger podcast. But
Absolutely, absolutely.
now to talk about Oklahoma State.
Oh,
So again,
I'm going over.
you going over?
Yeah, for sure. Give me 7 wins to go over. I'll take that all day. And it's an even value. It's at -110. So for sure. They
I
dodged
I'm
Texas.
gonna go over, but I'm not as confident. And like based on the way you sound about it, I'm not as confident as you are. But I
Hmm.
will go over as well. I think
Okay.
6-6 and 7-5 are both like almost equally as likely. I think I'm gonna go 7-5 based on the last couple years of success for them. I don't think
Okay.
there's not. It's not a. They're not like in program hell or anything. They just did bad last year compared to their previous couple years. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Fair.
think
Fair.
I think they should go over as well.
Nice. Nice. Okay.
But
Next team.
please, please tell me it's Kansas next. Do not put Kansas that low. Please, come on. Come on.
And the next team is
For the boys.
with a win total of 6.
Yes, yes.
It is Kansas. It is
Yes,
Kansas
yes.
Jayhawks.
Go Kansas. Woo.
Even 6 for Kansas.
Kansas. They went to a bowl game last year. They even got featured in
Went to
college game day.
went to dude, that last season was crazy, bro.
Dude,
They went to a
Kansas,
freaking bowl game.
they went to a bowl game. You know,
Kansas has been in the Big 12 for what, 27 years or something, and they still have less wins than Colorado does in the Big 12.
and
So
Colorado hasn't been there for
like the last 10 or something.
the last, yeah, crazy, crazy.
So that's how bad Kansas has been, and that last season was incredible.
Look,
Absolutely incredible.
look, another side note, every team, and I know things are going to change with conference realignment, every team should have the bare minimum goal of making a bowl game. Every single team. I don't care how
Yeah,
whatever, how
yeah.
bad you are, or Georgia Tech should make a bowl game. Kansas and you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
These
for sure.
teams,
Sure.
I mean, Georgia Tech, I would put it at a step above or 2 steps above Kansas. But these are teams that should be, you should make a bowl game. You should make a bowl game. There should be a million bowl games. You know,
So you're a
you,
big fan of like all the crazy, like every single crazy ass bowl game, like the
yeah.
friggin' Bahamas Bowl and
I
whatever.
mean, I think some of them have, silly sponsors, but to fall short of that,
Yeah, like that's so like pathetic.
I mean, 5 wins. If you win five and you lose a couple close ones, okay, fine, I get it. 3, 4, are you serious? You're in a power conference. You get like 2 or 3 free wins, and then
Right,
you know,
exactly.
like come on now. But whatever. Regardless of that, Kansas, congratulations on last season. You made the bowl game and you almost won your bowl game. That was actually one of the most entertaining bowl games last
Mm,
season against Arkansas. 55,
yeah,
53, triple overtime.
that was crazy. That was crazy.
Amazing. Amazing.
They're at 6, and looking
S-
at their schedule,
So do they go I guess no, they can hit the 6, sorry.
yeah, they
But
could push.
yeah,
But do you think they go bowling? Do you think they get 6
let's see here.
at Nevada? That's a little weird.
An
Uh,
interesting one I didn't even see. I didn't even know about this. Illinois versus Kansas, week 2.
that's a good one. That's a
Yeah,
good one.
in Lawrence, Kansas.
I don't love their schedule. I don't love it because they do play Illinois, and
They
Illinois was very solid last year. And
and
then
they
they go
catch
to
both
Nevada,
Texas. They catch both Texas and Oklahoma too.
right? Let's say, what do you think? You think Illinois beats them?
Man, that's so close. I haven't done too much research on Illinois, the Fighting Illinois,
Let,
but
let's just say they lose to Illinois, just to try to get to 6 losses or
sure.
7. So let's say they lose to Illinois. They could lose to Nevada, but let's just say they win that one.
Hmm.
Um, let's say they lose at Texas, at Oklahoma State, to Oklahoma. That's already 4. And then you still have to play Kansas State and at Cincinnati. So that could be 6. You still have to play at Iowa State. That could be another one. BYU is not super easy.
Wow.
Texas Tech is not easy.
This is not easy, but I'm pretty sure if you could run the numbers, I think their returning production is pretty high. And I'm pretty sure Jalen Daniels, their quarterback, is returning.
That their returning production is amazing. It's at 86%.
Let's go, Kansas.
So
Woo!
yeah. I have them even with that tough schedule in my algorithm. I have them at 7 wins, and that gives them a
Wow.
full game over the 6 that they're at right now.
I think with what you just mentioned of the returning production as
And it's
well.
because of the returning production. The returning
Yeah,
production is amazing. Yeah.
that's exactly what I was gonna say. I just knowing that, I knew it was high, but how high? Knowing that, I'm gonna go over. No one is confident. Like no one is truly confident. I'm taking the over on Kansas.
Bro, but you know what? I am in complete agreement. I'm gonna take the over also.
But you got to take the over.
Yeah.
I mean, you could take the under, but I'm proud to take the over. No one is super confident in taking the over on Kansas. I feel like I'm saying something blasphemous. You know?
Yeah, that is crazy. Over 6 wins on Kansas. That's absurd.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna get it because they do get UCF at home. Um, you know, they're they could go 3-0 in the non-con. Like they could beat Illinois, obviously, and then they get BYU at home. So, there's definitely like a lot of games they could win.
Hmm. And that
So
coach is good, Lance Leipold. That's a
yeah,
good
absolutely.
coach. Returning production. The schedule isn't too crazy hard. It's not easy, but it's not crazy, crazy, crazy hard. You're just asking for a team to go bowling and a little bit more. That's that is possible for Kansas. I believe in you. I
Yeah,
believe in you. You had game day last year.
that was incredible. All right, moving on. Let's see. So we have Iowa State and Cincinnati at
Wow.
5.5.
Since you want to go Cincinnati?
Sure.
For Cincinnati, we're talking now,
So
whether they make a bowl game or not. And just 2 years ago, they made the college football playoff. That's a
no,
testament to Luke Fickle.
yeah, I think Cincinnati's kind of screwed. I don't like the 5.5, and like you're gonna like I'm just gonna say I'm going under. Their
Right off the
returning,
bat.
yeah, right off the bat. Their returning production is terrible. It's at 46%. They do recruit solidly for being a group of 5 school. They recruit like in the middle of the pack or so of the actual Big 12, probably like in the back half, but they recruit well. But their returning production is really bad. They are making the jump Like it is a jump. It is a massive leap from the AAC to the Big 12. And I think they're just kind of gonna get pounded.
You said 5.5?
Yeah, 5.5. I'm going under hard, and I'm pretty confident in it. They do dodge Texas, but they have to go to BYU. They have to go to Oklahoma State. Um, I I
At
mean,
Pitt,
at Pitt is crazy. I think they're screwed for that.
I think they're screwed too. I think that's like an almost an auto loss there.
I think they have just like 7, 8 games that they could like definitely lose.
I
Like
think
definitely lose.
if they if they had Luke Fickle, I would take the over
I would
all
feel differently. I would
very
feel
easily.
completely
I would
different.
yeah, even with the returning production so low, the continuity of the coaching staff and the coach and that guy's a great mind. I mean, he took
Yeah,
him to the
for
playoff.
sure. I would be
I
much more confident in
I
our
would
pick.
take the over.
Yeah.
New coach, returning production, bad. Decent recruiting, new competition,
Yeah.
you know, much more different schedule. Yeah, I'm gonna take the under, of course,
Ooh,
of
it's an easy one.
course.
I think it's an easy one.
I think
Sorry,
it's they
Cincinnati.
this team could win, and it's like pains me to say. I don't want to put them in, Colorado level. This team could win 3 games.
Yeah, yeah. I
This
can see that. I can
this
see that.
team could win. Like, I don't even think the West Virginia game is a guaranteed win.
Yeah.
I think it's coin flip.
I think it's coin flipped also. At Houston, same thing. I think Houston has an edge there.
At BYU also the only two like the 2 games I'll say for sure like slam dunk wins is Eastern Kentucky and I would hope Miami, Ohio.
Right.
I would hope so. But I think those are 2 wins and then you gotta beat Kansas or West Virginia to get the third game or maybe fourth. Like
Yeah,
this is
no,
not
it's
easy.
tough. It's just tough.
And those 2 games that I mentioned, the first two, um Eastern Kentucky and Miami, Ohio, they're in the beginning. They play
Right.
all these like tougher teams, all this middle class in the middle,
In the middle.
and then
It's all in a row.
they're easier conference games, West Virginia and Kansas, all the way at the end. This team could
Yep,
already give up by the time they even play those 2 easier
for
teams.
sure. For sure. Definitely.
I think you hit it on the money under.
Yeah. Sorry, Cincinnati. Um,
Sorry, dudes. Sorry, Bearcats. You have a really cool team name.
I do like the mascot name. That is a sick name.
That's a
I
sick
don't even
name.
know what it is, but it sounds awesome.
So cool. Bear and cat.
I actually remember when UM went to Cincinnati for some reason. We played a road game there in like 2013 or something, and I remember losing. Like they just kind of like spanked us, and like I remember like the black field. That was crazy. So
Oh,
that was pretty
yeah.
cool. Okay, so moving on. Iowa State also at 5.5. The
Iowa State.
Cyclones
5.5.
5.5. I have them winning projected at 5. So according to my numbers, strictly I would go under, but let's take a looky at this schedule. Their
I
road
think
games are interesting, very interesting, and they're actually kind of tough. Iowa State is just one of those teams that's in the middle. They didn't do well last year, and they're kind of always in the middle of the pack.
mhm.
I'm not super confident in them this year. What do you think?
Not very confident in them either. I do think I with Iowa State, I mean, for the last couple years, I judged them. It's gonna sound kind of like dumb, maybe. I don't know. I judged them based on how they play Iowa and how far off they are from Iowa, because Iowa's been pretty consistent the last
Fair, very fair.
million years,
Right.
in the Big Ten West. So, when they beat Iowa or they play them close or whatever, I think they're like pretty decent.
Mhm.
Let's see how they did last season against Iowa.
I think they
They
won.
they beat Iowa.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why I thought they lost. But you know what?
I mean, it was
Iowa
a
was
terrible game, right? It was like 10-7 or something.
10
Yeah,
to
it was 10
7.
7. It
But
was 10.
Iowa is not wasn't great last year. And I think first of all, what I'm trying to say here is I think Iowa beats them. They added
Yeah,
the former, I'm pretty sure the former quarterback of Michigan, the one from a few years ago. Um, they're
what's that
they're
guy's
of
name?
course their defense is super good. They got
Oh,
some
McNamara,
transfers.
right?
Yeah, yeah, McNamara.
Yeah.
So I think I was gonna do a small leap. I think Iowa State, you know, is gonna stay more or less the same. I think Iowa beats Iowa State, and then from there they play all these Big 12 teams. They play both Oklahoma and Texas, you
And
know,
Kansas State and
and can
TCU. Like,
you
dude,
know
they
they
get everyone.
they
They
play
get
a
everyone.
lot of these hard teams, and I think, like I said, what I'm trying to say with the Iowa thing is, would Iowa would fare better against the schedule, and that's that they really only have a defense, you know.
Yeah,
So seeing
yeah,
how Iowa State is like they pretty much tied last game. I know it was an entire 10-7, but they're not gonna fare that well. I think.
yeah.
I think the under here,
I think the under is pretty safe, to be honest.
Oklahoma, TCU, Kansas State, Texas,
And
and
then it's
Iowa.
two
Those are
Baylor, two BYU. I
I see
mean,
five almost for sure losses.
yeah. And then like a bunch of other possible losses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going under for sure.
Like if they don't even comfortably beat Iowa consistently, and Iowa would have a tough time on the schedule, I think. Like how is Iowa State gonna be that good, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's, partly due to their tough schedule, but no, I agree with you. I just don't think they're that good. 5.5 is a little too high. And the under is at -125, so it's not awful value. So I would be pretty, happy with that pick.
Okay. Who is next? I'm pretty sure if I had to guess, West Virginia would be last.
Um, they are tied for last,
With
but who do you
BYU.
think is no
Oh,
with no? You want to guess?
I don't know.
They're tied for last with Houston, but BYU is
Oh,
ahead
okay.
of
Oh,
them both.
okay. Yeah, I was thinking like who have we not covered? And I was like, okay, it's Houston.
So yeah, the last three teams remaining are BYU, West Virginia, and Houston.
So it's
Um,
BYU's next then.
but BYU is at 5.5 also with Iowa State and um, Cincinnati. So yeah, BYU is also at 5.5. BYU is interesting. BYU is super interesting. Because I think that they are in the no man's land of since they've been independent of
Hmm.
a Power Five team and a Group of Five team because they always play five or six power teams every year.
Yeah.
So they play more than like the average Group of Five school, but they play a ton of Group of Five schools.
Hmm.
So they've been interesting. I always kind of consider them as a power school, but not really. Kind of on the
Hmm.
verge. So now that they're finally in a Power Five school, I think the transition for them will be much, much easier than the other three joining.
Looking at this schedule, they play at Arkansas and they play
Mhm.
at Kansas the week after. So I just wanted to point that out. But
That's
they
tough.
they play Arkansas, they play Texas, Oklahoma,
That is so
TCU.
tough.
They do dodge Kansas State.
Mhm.
Good for them. I
Their road schedule is a little tricky,
Schedule's a
especially
little
with
tricky.
Arkansas.
It's not like the toughest of the toughest ones we've seen of the conference schedules,
Yeah, yeah. Their home schedule is decent.
but I think it's gonna be tough for them. What you said 5.5?
Yeah, 5.5.
I think it's gonna be close. But I mean, of course, Texas, TCU losses there. Arkansas probably a loss there, like more than likely.
Mhm.
At Oklahoma State is tough. Even Texas Tech at home for them is
It's
tough.
tough. Yeah.
Like I'm gonna go under as well.
Yeah, I like this one's a little closer for me. I do agree with you though. I think I'm gonna go slightly under. I think it comes down to like their schedule is like pretty close of them being like
Hmm.
5-7 or 6-6,
Hmm.
but Their recruiting is like basically non-existent compared to the other Big 12 schools, and they are still making that jump to the power conference. So I'm gonna stick with the under. I
Yeah.
think 5-7 is much more likely or worse.
All right. On to Houston.
So yeah, we got Houston and West Virginia. They're both at 4.5. I guess we can hit Houston next and feel bad for Houston. They are the team that, is rated the worst by, Vegas and like of the new schools
Yeah.
joining the conference. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you think they'll have a tough time or
The non-con is not easy. Like for any other team, for most teams, it's kind of easy. For Houston, I
Mhm.
don't think it's a sweep. I'm not saying they're gonna lose. I'm saying it's not a guaranteed sweep. UTSA could beat them.
Yeah. Them and UTC are basically the same team.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Like why didn't the Big 12 take UTSA? Like I don't know. But I mean maybe they do in the future, the Frankenstein conference, but they just pluck off whoever they want. But
they play at Rice, but that is in Houston, so it's basically a home game. Um,
yeah,
and Rice is terrible.
I mean they should win Rice, Sam Houston. They should win UTSA. I think that could be losable.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that is losable. They play a lot of these better teams like Texas, Kansas State,
Mm,
TCU.
yeah. The recruiting obviously is not as good as the rest of the Big 12.
It's
The
a it
returning
it,
production is okay.
it should be an easy under, honestly. This should be an easy
I
under.
yeah, I agree. I agree. I think they're gonna go 4-8, maybe 3-9. There if like I'm trying to find wins here, and like if I had to pick, it would be like best case scenario, they go 3-0 in the
Mhm.
non-con. They could go 0-9 in the conference. They
Yeah,
really could.
yeah,
And maybe they beat West Virginia or something, but like I don't like them against any team in the Big 12.
yeah. I agree. On to West Virginia.
So that's the last team,
I,
also at 4.5.
I think the West Virginia quarterback or a player or someone said that they're gonna beat Penn State week 1. That
What?
man needs to be tested for drugs.
Who said that? Dude, why is
Someone
their
said that.
non-con
I
so
saw that on
crazy?
Twitter. I saw that on Twitter. I swear. Someone said they better watch out. I'm almost certain I saw that. But they did say that. They play both Penn State and Pitt in the non-con. Tough. Even though they play Duquesne, that's still tough. Penn State and Pitt. They
Yeah.
play TCU. They play Oklahoma. They dodge Texas, and they even dodge Kansas State. But West Virginia was horrible
Yeah, they
last
were
year.
ass. Um,
This is not easy.
I mean, they went 5-7. They weren't like completely awful, but like I think they're on the verge of firing their coach. Um,
Yeah, they've had some controversies lately,
yeah,
you know, bunch of stuff. And this is
I
a very tough schedule. I think what you said, what was the win total?
4.5. It's pretty low. Like that's pretty
It
low.
is really low. But dude, this non-con, like if it was three very easy teams,
Yeah, if it
uh,
was three cupcakes like Michigan has or something,
I would take the over, but this
yeah,
is not easy. I'm
because
gonna
like
take
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
take the under easily just because of the non-con. Just
The
because of the
non-con, yeah,
non-con.
they're getting out of their 1-2 probably. Do they get four more wins? Do they win four conference games?
No,
Yeah, no,
no.
I don't think so. So yeah, I'll go under also.
The Big 12, the most interesting conference of this year.
Definitely, without a doubt.
Can't wait to watch them. Can't wait for all these big, big matchups.
Absolutely.
Texas is not back yet. They're not back, but it should
But
be a
they could
good.
be.
But they could be. It's possible, but they're
What would you constitute as them being back?
they
Playoff?
they 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 would have to make the playoffs,
Yeah.
and then yeah, they would have to make the playoffs.
All right. All right. Well, that's it for Big 12. And catch us next week for Big Ten.
Thank you guys for listening.
You know,
See you, Richie.
see ya. Peace.
Peace out, guys.